very much. Thank you very much for providing this gathering that many of us claim that is so necessary. I want to thank you for coming to hear what life has to say, what life can say all of these times. Not Sebi. I am the least that should be talking about anything that is constructive or productive. I should be the least because I have never been to school. I never go to kindergarten. I didn't go to high school. I didn't go to grade school. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to anything. And I don't read books. I just find that to be very offensive. I do. I'm not talking to anyone else. You see, I need help. I need help more than you. I need help. You see, because my mother and my father ate rice, they ate beans, they ate hogs, they ate lobsters, they ate crabs, they drank cow milk. And one night, my daddy decided to make love to my mommy. My mommy ate the same thing my daddy ate. The rice, the beans, the blood, and the starch. And I stand before you today a product of that sperm. You think that I'm rock tight? You think that I'm wise? After being born from a parents that ate rice, beans, and blood? No. I need just as much help as you, or maybe even more. Yes, I need help. You see, I need help because I was always wrong. I was the boy that they used to ask, what are you going to do? I don't know. They asked my mother. I never had a father because my father was killed when I was in the womb. I don't know the command of a maid in my ears. I never heard the voice of a man in my ears. I only heard the voice of my mother. That voice was more than sufficient. When along from that voice, I didn't hear my children bringing back from the school. They talk about something European, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, Socrates and Plato. But I never heard talk about anything in the jungles of Africa. And why do you want to hear about something from the jungles of Africa? You see, I make it simple. I always made it simple. But I was wrong. I was always wrong. My friends, when I was 8, brought a book to me with a cow jumping over the moon. His name was Richard. Richard said, yeah, you a dunce. You see, in the Caribbean, those that didn't go to school, we call them dunce. I said, well, where am I a dunce? Because you don't believe that this cow could jump over the moon, and it's in the book, see? It's right in the book. And the little cat was jumping over the moon. Have you seen that? Of course you have. So Richard won the argument. A cow could jump over the moon. So I said, Richard, why don't you take a look at the cow across the street? Do you believe that that cow could jump over that fence? The answer is no. So how could a cow jump over the moon? It's in the book. So that's all I heard is in the book, and I was embarrassed because I didn't go to school. They made me feel very bad. I didn't go to school, and I didn't want to go to school after a while. And when I grew up, I said one day when I was 14, walking in front of Mr. Wright's house, I'm going to do something that's going to help humanity. And then I doubted that too because I have never been to school, and they told me that the prerequisites in being someone that could afford themselves on something equitable has to go to school. But I didn't go to school, so I have nothing to offer. So I joined the Merchant Marine. I started wiping the engines. And I wiped the engine for 5 years, and at the ending of 5 years, I became an engineer. At the ending of 5 years as an engineer, making a total of 10 years as a merchant seaman, I quit the ships. The captain said, "What you gonna do?" I said, "Captain Freddie, your voice reminded me when I was 5, 6, 7, and 8. What you gonna do?" I said, "Captain Freddie, I don't live like most people with a future. I don't have any future. I never think about the future because I live the future. What am I going to do? I don't know, but I don't even care. Because what's going to be for me, no one could take away." I went to California. I worked as an engineer with the county of Los Angeles. But I was sick. I had asthma, diabetes, I was impotent. I wore glasses, I weighed 291 pounds, and I was very extremely angry. I went to Mexico, I was healed in 94 days, didn't have any disease. But the man that healed me brought me face to face with something that I've never heard before. He said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Honduras." "You from Honduras?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You eat bad. You eat rice, you eat beans, you eat chicharrones, you eat cassava, you eat yuca. Do you believe in God?" I said, "Of course I do." He said, "That's your mistake." He said, "Prostitutes believe in God. Killers believe in God. Thieves believe in God. They got nothing because they believe." And as we use the word believe, you're saying that you're uncertain about God because you happen to just believe in God. I said, "Well, what's the next step?" Deliver yourself to God. You got the goodies. Where do I begin? Omit the things that man made and eat only that which God made. So God made everything that's good. He said, "Yes." I said, "You know something, sir? I think that I am the only man on earth that ever made a statement that caused everybody to get upset, but I don't know why it makes me feel so free. You said that God made everything that's good." He said, "Yes." I said, "That is precisely why I love the devil." "Oh, I love Satan." Then he looked at me. "Do you expect a response?" I said, "Well, I don't. Because you said that God made everything and everything God made is good. That's why I love the devil." Well, he didn't give me a response, and that was okay with me, but he healed me. And I began the journey. When I returned to California, I no longer wanted to be the engineer. Because these tubes, these boilers, these turbines, condensers, I want to leave because I said when I was 14 that I want to do something that helped humanity. But I've never been to church, and that is the God in heaven truth. I don't go to church. Not that there's something wrong with the church. There's nothing wrong with school. There's nothing wrong with the church. There's nothing wrong with anything or anyone in my world. Everybody is good. And everything is good. But then I have to live by that which is good that comes from inside of me. And that which comes from inside of me is what I live by. Not what people tell me, not what the book says, is what I feel inside me. So one day I told Gregory, I'm going to cure every disease in the world. He said, man, you are crazy. You better be glad you got this job. Because the chief engineer saw your resume. On your resume, it shows that you've never been to school. I think I see Mr. Sultan. Somebody that I wanted to see for many, many years, that I love so very much. And you see, there is Sultan. So anyway, I began to formulate these herbs on what I learned from steam engineering. Thermodynamics. What is thermodynamics? Heat exchange. Latent heat of evaporation, latent heat of condensation, and latent heat of fusion. All that occurs in the human body. But in steam engineering, to prevent the system from clogging, you give it a chelation. But the chelation treatment that we give is one that is made of inorganic and carcinogenic chemicals. They call that sodium phosphate monobasic. And what did I do? I put together sodium phosphate dibasic, not monobasic. Monobasic means that the substance only has one in its structure. God did not make anything with one in its structure. Anything that has life has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. There are three right there. So when someone makes a substance that is monobasic, meaning one, it's a poison. Wow. I began to put it into motion. And ladies and gentlemen, I have not suffered an embarrassment as great as this one. When I put the compound together to perform what is known as a chelation, the man that lived next door to me, his name is Mr. Fredericks. He said, I heard that you're experimenting with some herbs. I said, yeah. Well, I'm blind. Could you heal me? That's a Monday. I've been blind for 11 years. I said, Mr. Fredericks, I just made the compound last week, and I'm going to try it on you, the first person. He said, if you make me see, I'm going to give you $1 million. Money has never been anything that I pursued. Money, woman, cars, clothes, or anything I never pursued. Doesn't mean anything to me. Women are good because I'm married, and I have a wife, and I'm supposed to have a wife and make children, but I'm not one to pursue that. Yet I wind up once with 3 wives in the house. You see, everything happened, right? He said to me, I will give you $1 million. So there's a young man named Todd Stroud who was visiting me. He had so much faith in me, he took me to Santa Monica in California and said, LA, what you bring me here for? I'm looking for a house, a building, because I know you're going to make that man see. Mr. Frederick didn't know the part he was playing in my life. That was a Monday. On the Wednesday, Mr. Fredericks, I was washing dishes, and my little girl was sitting on the counter of the kitchen, and I saw Mr. Frederick in the kitchen window. I said, Mr. Frederick is back. The blind man is back. The blind man said, I am not blind. I raised my left hand. He said, you raised your left hand. I winked my right eye. You said, you winked your right eye. He came back that Wednesday, not the Friday that I told him he would be seeing. In the ears and the eyes of many of you, you will say that only Jesus makes the blind see. And I would agree with you, because that is what you were taught. This is what they teach us, that only Jesus could make the blind see and the crippled. Well, don't tell that to Michael Jackson family, because Michael Jackson, son, oldest son Omar, mother is named Helga from Norway, and she came to Orlando, and Michael Jackson told me that Helga was sick. I didn't know what Helga had. She was covered from head to foot. I told the nurse to give the woman the compounds as was prescribed, and she did. 4 days later, no, the very next day, I'm going to do something stupid. I go up to see my patient, but I don't see my patient. There's a woman sitting on the bed. So I asked her, I said, pardon me, man, where is the other woman from Norway? She said, there are no other woman. I am the woman from Norway. Wow. The compound did such. She's sitting on the bed. I didn't expect that. She looked different. 3 days later, Michael Jackson come running down to tell me, Helga is walking. I say, Helga is walking? He said, yes. I said, well, that's normal. No, Sebi. She's been in a wheelchair for 5 years in Norway. She came in a wheelchair paralyzed for 5 years. And guess what Helga told me? She came out and she hugged me with tears in her eyes. And she said, I have been in menopause for 5 years, as long as I have been in a wheelchair. And my period came down today, after 5 years of menopause. Then, Michael Jackson's son, which is Omar, I used to call him Mikey, he had a tumor in his head. I had gone to Africa, to Namibia, and I came back with a group of herbs. One of them was named Sia. It's white like milk, but it's fluffy. I said, I put some in a bag, and I told Mikey to inhale. He inhaled, and he sneezed 52 times, and by the time he got to the door, he passed the tumor out of his nose. Michael Jackson, babysitter, compromised the man that I had so much faith in, and so much everything that's good, and maybe you do. But this man is a man that I'm going to mention that has offended the black race, and many other races too, but especially ours. I went to see Mr. Teddy Pendergrass because he was paralyzed from his neck down. I was not looking at his paralysis, I was looking at his stomach. He had a great big stomach. And he asked me, Glenda Garcia asked me, why are you looking at his stomach? We are talking about his arms and his legs that isn't moving, his neck. He was a C4, he couldn't do anything. At the ending of 2 months, Teddy, and something the Russian doctor said he would never do again in his life. I told Mr. Teddy Pendergrass, you paid the doctors $275,000 and they have you paralyzed. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to charge you half that price, but when I get to your waistline, that everything is moving except your legs, you're going to give me half my money. He said, okay. When I'm in St. Thomas, I didn't want anyone to be looking for me. I didn't want anyone to see me. I was kind of tired. I was working very hard then, running from Chicago to New York to Honduras and back to Puerto Rico. Oh God, it was heavy on me. And then I had 3 wives. That was even worse. I'm in St. Thomas, and, enjoying myself. And I got this phone. So now how could someone be calling me? No, I'm not too satisfied with that phone call because I don't want anyone talking to me. I want to spend a week without anyone speaking to me. I don't want to talk. I pick up the phone. Here's Teddy Pendergrass. Yes? Well, you better come to Philadelphia because the bottom of my feet is hurting me and I want to know why. I said, why? The bottom of your feet is hurting you. I went to Philadelphia. But when I got to Philadelphia, now remember, I just jumped from Michael Jackson babysitter onto Teddy Pendergrass, and you will see the connection. I got to Philadelphia that night, to his house that night, I mean. But there's some dark spots in his house, and there is a man sitting in the dark. This man that's sitting in the dark asked me, why did I remove eggs, butter, cheese, meat, starch from Teddy's diet? I said, what did you ask? Why did I remove eggs and meat and blood from his diet? Starches? I said, sir, do you have any knowledge or understanding of cell food consistency? I said, well, if you don't have that understanding of science, but I'm going to help you with it. I still haven't seen his face. He's in the dark. So, I said, you only have to go to a zoo and look at a zookeeper. He does not feed the gorilla the same food he feeds the polar bear. He does not feed the eagle the same food he feeds the sparrow. The eagle eats meat and blood, not the hummingbird or the sparrow. They eat nectar and seeds. So genes and food has a consistency. Are you telling me, sir, and I can't see the man, that Mr. Teddy Pendergrass, being of an African gene, that he is allowed to eat eggs and milk, cheese, butter, and... Is that what you're telling me, sir? But I could never see the man's face. And you guys are going to be surprised who the man in the dark was. Oh my God. When I got outside, Philip and Paul, that you guys may know who helped to put this affair, who helped to make it what it is, Philip and Paul, mother named Annette Thomas, she said to me, you know who the man in the dark was? I said, who? Mr. Deepak Chopra. Wow. Now you're going to see the connection with Michael Jackson, babysitter, and the man in the dark. When Grace Rwanda saw that Mikey was cured, tumors of his nose, Helga was walking, Michael, well, if you all remember, Michael jumped up on the SUV, and who you think was with him then? Where did he get that energy? She said, I have lupus for 9 years. And I have pain for 9 years. On the 4th day, the pain was gone. And the 2nd month, the lupus was gone. And who was treating this woman for 9 years? The man in the dark. And I'm writing a book about the man in the dark. Brothers and sisters, we need help. We need help because we believe that which is attainable is distant. It requires science. Science? Science, you say? Science have had 400, 500 years in reference to medicine and nutrition. What have they cured? Nothing. But we continue to pursue whatever they're offering because we had nothing to replace it with. So I'm not blaming you. Like I did not blame my mother for giving me cow's milk and cheese and rice and beans. I cannot blame my mother. This was the information that she was given. Now, doesn't that show something they call morality? Moral values? Those who brought us from Africa, when I was arrested, I asked the Supreme Court, because the FDA claimed that they didn't want me to disseminate my products in the United States for you. The FDA said no. I said the FDA is right. They should not allow me to disseminate my products. They're 100% right. The judge said, you agree with that? Of course I have to. I agree with everyone. Always. I'm like Uncle Bo. You ask Uncle Bo, the sky is red. Uncle Bo said, what a beautiful candy red. He ain't going to satisfy you. So one day, someone came and told Uncle Bo, why did you agree with me? With what? When I told you what I said to you some years ago, I found out that I was wrong. Who found out? He said, I found out. He said, but if I had told you 2 years ago, it would have been an argument. But you found out. The only reason why I come before you to talk about this, not only because I am a recipient of it, I'm 76 years of age, without the diseases that I once had 46 years ago. I was 30. But I came to you with this message because it is something that I had to bring before the Supreme Court. When I was in jail, people that used to work with me abandoned me and said, uh-oh, they got him. And they left. And people that I was married to was not too cool about it either. They thought that I was doing something other than good. So when I was before the Supreme Court in New York, right here, on Center Street, Dr. Sebi, the physician claimed that there is no cure for AIDS or any other disease. I said the physicians are 100% right. Like the FDA is right. Well, what do you have to say? Well, we need to ask the FDA, do they have the wisdom and knowledge or understanding of food gene consistency? The judge asked the FDA. The judge said, what is that? And I repeated, gorillas do not eat polar bear food. While I was in jail, I knew that the Supreme Court didn't have a defense what I was going to say or do. I knew that. But all my friends in New York that knew me, they said that I shouldn't go against the big boys. I said, my brother Robert, I said, you know, the only big boy I know in my life is my mama. My mama had the biggest testicles I've ever seen hanging on any human being. My mama, nobody else. I listened to no one but my mama, and after my mama, I listened to me. Why? Because I'm unique. I'm not like you. You're not like me. So what do you expect of me? You don't know how I should behave. And I don't know how you should behave. I cannot dictate to you and tell you what color you should like or what taste in your mouth you should like. Because I'm not you. I am me. But the me is what I don't like oftentimes. My mama told me the meat is kind of bitter. And it is true. But we live in a bitter truth. So I asked, Your Honor, is it a fact that the Bible teaches that the herbs are for the healing of the nations? She said, yes. Is it a fact that Hippocrates, the father of medicine, cured every disease known to man? I did not want to mention Imhotep I. And I will never mention Imhotep I. Because a group of sisters let me know how stupid I was to put him in front. So what do you mean? This man is an Egyptian. He came from the cradle of civilization. They said, from where, Sebi? From the cradle of civilization. He said, well, is it a fact that civilization is what destroys life? Oh my God. And what are you saying about Imhotep I? Did he open the human body? I said, yes. But did the human body have a zip on it? I said, no, but thank you. So I never mentioned Imhotep once anymore. So I don't care who was the first, second, third, or fourth. That has nothing to do with us living right now. That's why they go to Egypt. Because I don't know what I'm going there for. I'm going to see a bunch of stones and come back and that's it. So I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, is it a fact that Hippocrates used herbs to cure every disease known to man, thus establishing the principle of medical science? She said yes. Your Honor, is it a fact that science shows us that the human body is carbon-based and that the substance that's going to complement a human-based body, a carbon-based body, would itself be carbon-based? That's correct. Chemical affinity. I say I rest my case. So as you look at the physicians, do I get a response? What kind of response are they going to get? But I wasn't afraid of the physician. I'm not even afraid of God or the devil. I don't live in fear. I live in love only. That's why I love the devil. The judge looked at the doctors and said, if I don't get a response in a couple of minutes, in a minute or so, this man, Dr. Sebi, will talk for the remaining day of this case. Well, what are they going to say? Let me tell you what the hope don't work. We know that everything that God made is good, but God did not make aloe vera. God did not make comfrey. God did not make carrots or beets or turnips. God didn't make rice or beans. God did not make no hog and didn't make no lamb or cows. How do we find that out? Research. They are cross-pollinated and they are hybrids. This is why there are little barometers, tests that you could take. Like for instance, if you make a cow, the pH is 6, acid. If you make a bison, the pH is 8.9, alkaline. But God made the bison, He did not make the cow. So now that we begin to separate the things from God and man, we begin to clear the way. Nothing God made has starch in it. When we eat starch, we offend our body. We are sick. Oh God, we are so sick. We are so sick that I won the case 1988, 21 years ago, proving to the world that I cure AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, herpes, cancer, blindness, paralysis, and others. But you know something? Remember when I began, I said that I'm always wrong? I'm going to do something stupid again. I told my wife, I said, well, since the black leaders of America has abandoned us, that's cool. I have no problem with that. It's a position that I'm quite satisfied with because I like to stand alone. I don't need no help. If I need help, I am crippled. What do you mean you need help? The leaders are not going to do it. They cannot do it. They will never do it. But what they could do is march. Just march. They kill somebody, just march. Just march to Washington. Just march. But hold it. I can't wear out the sole of my shoes. What are you telling me? What you gonna tell me? I couldn't do that. I now begin to see that the leaders cannot and will not help you. That's why I wrote the piece. Our leaders have betrayed us, and that's the God in heaven truth. My wife said, just go to Africa. We save about $30,000, and we got all these compounds and boxes. I went to Zimbabwe. I began to treat people in the village. Little boy that couldn't play soccer anymore was playing soccer. The lady that had diabetes no longer had diabetes. The brother who came up here earlier and talked about his diabetes condition. They told me, Dr. Parinyatwa would like to see you in the Ministry of Health. He is the Minister of Health of Zimbabwe, Dr. Parinyatwa. I go to see him. When I went to his office, they prepared for me a long table. And there was Dr. Parinyatwa at one end of the table and I'm at the other. But there's an Indian man from India that's sitting over there by the doctor. And there's a bunch of women. There was only 3 men and me. 3 men, including myself and the sisters. They were doctors. I showed him my diagnostic sheet. May I ask a question? Is there a box outside with some books and some compounds that belongs to the Institute of Dr. Sebi outside right now? Does anyone know that? No. You see, the reason why I'm asking for it, because someone was supposed to bring some books today, and in the book I have the diagnostic sheet where it shows HIV positive, HIV negative. Now, you're going to have to take my word for it, but I don't like doing that. I do not like doing that. I want to have something physical in front of you, because it is difficult for a brother to come up and say, he cure AIDS? Man, you're crazy. What you mean? How come the doctors aren't doing it? How come they aren't putting it into motion? Well, listen to this. I went to Africa and see Dr. Parinyatwa, and guess what he told me? After I showed him the diagnostic sheets, the Indian doctor over there said, well, I think that your compound needs to go through scrutiny, especially a double-blind test placebo. I said, sir, my compounds have been through all the previous examinations and scrutiny. Here are the documents from accredited medical school. AIDS was killed. I said, sir, what entity do you represent of healing that have healed anything that makes you an authority? You have not cured anything. And the Ayurvedic medicine from India, they recommend that you drink milk, which is definitely a poison. Dr. Parinyatwa said to me, have you ever seen Dr. Fayakon? No, Minister Fayakon? I said, what did you say? Have I ever seen who? Minister Fayakon for what? I heal diseases, does he? Does he have anyone in his repertoire that heals diseases? He said, no, but why are you sending me to Minister Fayakon? You're not doing him any justice. I don't need to see no Minister Fayakon because he doesn't have anything I need. I'm talking to you. I have the cure of your AIDS and your diabetes and your everything else, not to mention anemia. Well, after my wife and I saw it was futile, just go to South Africa. Oh my God, I went to the Minister of Health. We thought, well, not me. I never see Mr. Nelson Mandela as being someone equitable. I never see that. I saw Lumumba. I saw Sekou Touré. I saw Nyerere, but I didn't see this man from South Africa. Because I remember clearly in my head, I was 22 years of age when he went to jail. And he didn't go to jail to free Africans. He went to jail because he wanted to integrate black and white. And Bob would say, you're going to jail. No, I'm going to go to jail to fight for integration. Now, isn't this something? I would have gone to jail to take Africa back to my children. Not to integrate Africa, but that's what Mr. Mandela went to jail for. Well, I remember that well. And I do not cater to things like that. I cater to building something. Okay? I do not read books. I don't believe in anything. But I can construct. So I made these compounds. And they're sending me to this or that person in South Africa. They tell me in South Africa that I have to go see Jesse Jackson. Oh, God. You know, I need help. You see why I said it, I need help? Now, why am I going to see Jesse Jackson for? I mean, I don't know, at your age, is Jesse Jackson involved in letting black people know that we should stop thinking about the cure for disease because there's a cure in the community? Jesse Jackson would die before he do something like that, and I know it. And how I know it? Michael Jackson again. Michael and I was busy. I don't know why Michael would put me in trouble every time. Oh God, Michael will put me in trouble now. Michael said to me, are you ready? Ready for what? To go to Washington. I said, so what, Washington? What's in Washington that is so extraordinary? I mean, what is there that I'm supposed to prepare for in Washington? He said, well, I'm going to take you to Washington. I said, for what? Well, you're going to see. So we drove all the way from California to Washington, D.C. We got to D.C. at the Rayborn building, March the 31st of 2004. Dr. Sebi has never experienced this before. When the limousine pulled up, there were a million hands coming through the windows. Please, Michael, 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 oh, Michael. And these thousands and thousands of hands. I said, wow, how it should be to be famous. Well, I'm not famous, and I don't want to be famous because I like to scratch my toes and sit by the river and look at frogs and birds. And I like doing that because it affords me a measure of peace.
I hear you.
If I was famous, I would have to hide. I used to have to drive Michael in Hawaii in the dark at night. We'd be driving around Maui because he couldn't do it in the day. Because he was famous. So where was that with Michael Jackson?
The hands through the window.
Rayburn. Rayburn.
The what?
The Rayburn building.
I didn't hear that.
The Rayburn building.
You remember. I taught you something with Alzheimer's. When we got to the Rayburn building, inside, who is there? 17 African ambassadors. They are on my right. Over here is Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas and John Conyers from Michigan. And over here is Jesse Jackson Jr. from the House of Appropriation. And the other one was Mr. Leonard Mohammed from the Nation of Islam. I said, wow, today is the day I'm going to tell the world and all these brothers, Leonard Mohammed from the Nation of Jesse Jackson Jr., oh, it's over. It's over. The world will know that Dr. Sebi cure AIDS, and he will be, for the first time, Dr. Sebi would be useful to you because you will hear it from the mouth of the leaders. Have you heard it?
No.
Have you heard it?
No.
So what happened to Mr. Leonard Muhammad and Mr. Jesse Jackson Jr.? Who? President Bush. May God bless this man. And God save this man. President Bush said that he appropriated $5 billion to fight AIDS. And Mr. Jesse, and he's a white boy, right? And Mr. Jesse Jackson Jr., who's a brother, he didn't tell no one that his brother cured AIDS. But Mr. President Bush appropriated $5 billion. And we say the white man is bad. You all forget about John Brown? Did he give his life for us?
Yes.
Of course he did. Then sometime we would say, we should have never been brought from Africa. Where in Africa would you like to live today? You see? You see? We were supposed to be here right now. Whether we like it or not. But that doesn't mean that that's a negative. Because they took, what's his name? Not Moses, but the other one, Joseph, to Egypt to be a slave. And he became the prince. Well, they brought us here and Barack is the president. Now, Michael goes and tells this audience that the gift that he had for Africa was me. Wow. I looked at the 17 ambassadors like they didn't hear anything. My wife said, just make another trip. Where we going this time, girl? We're going to Uganda. Oh, God. I went to Uganda and they looked at me like I was stupid. I said, now, is it that everything has to manifest in its own time? That's what's happening. Yes, I cure AIDS. And how do I go about curing AIDS? Let me break that down now. To make it very simple, to cure AIDS, Dr. Sebi didn't go to school, period. He didn't go to medical school. He's not a biochemist. He's not a biologist. He just happened to use the brain power of the African gene. It's nothing really fantastic. What the brain showed me was that when the human body is sick, it's because we've been eating the wrong food. And where did I heard that for the first time? Messenger Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
He was the first man to say that. I think the only man. So when you put gasoline in a diesel car, it's not going to run right, right? So now we need the love that God provided for us. We need to eat the food that God made. How I go about curing AIDS and sickle cell and lupus, I give everybody the same compounds. Well, how does it address all these various manifestations of disease? Because there's only one disease. There's never been two. There's only one.
Mucus.
Mucus.
What?
When the mucous membrane has been compromised, you will have a disease where that compromising takes place. If it's in the nasal passage, it's sinusitis. If it's in the lungs, it's pneumonia. But this mucus on the lungs, mucus in the bronchial tubes, is what? Bronchitis. Then the physician says, and what about AIDS? And what about AIDS, you and your one disease theory? I said, Your Honor, I do not believe in theories because I have never been to school. You see, I either know or I don't know. I don't live in a world of theories or belief. No, I don't live there. He asked, what about AIDS? Yes, Dr. Sebi, where the mucus is in the blood, the skin, and the lymphatic system, which makes up what? The immunological system. That's where you find the mucus. And I know, because I'm the only one curing AIDS as for right now that I know about. I hope that there are others, and they should be. Not only Sebi. Why should Sebi take on that great responsibility? No, it shouldn't be like that. But it is like that. It is where we are now. We should be here for a reason. Like Pushkin, the Russian philosopher, the Russian writer, he said that there could be no occurrence unless that occurrence was supposed to occur. And that's the fact. How could you deny it? It's like writing history without writing about Hitler. Whether you like him or not. Did he live?
Yes.
Thank you. We are on the same journey. So as I made these compounds to cleanse the body, I also found something out. That when they removed us from Africa, there were a mineral that they didn't give us from that day until now. Iron. None of us have had iron in our body. And there could be no disease manifesting unless there is a deficiency of iron. Impossible. So what does Dr. Sebi do? He cleansed the body, feed the body the minerals that the body needs, and the body repairs itself. It's as simple as that. But look what I have to go through. Look what I have to go through now. But my daughter, Zave, I don't know because she's 25, she seemed to have a greater hook on things than Daddy. She took 3 of my compounds. One is a salve that Daddy been making for 28 years. She changed that around. Her own genius. She made a product known as Banju. Banju. Any child that is suffering with ADD or any associated deficiency of the brain, it's over in 24 hours. My daughter did that. And so could you. So could all of you. We ought to do it. But we have never been introduced to the path that would avail us the privilege to do such. One of the conquerors, you see, if I was to walk in your house today and I tell you to get out of your house, and if you don't get out, I'm going to chop your head off and I'm going to take your property. You call that a thief and a murderer. But in the days when we were home, sitting under the trees, without any clothes on, we were quite happy, living exactly the way that God intended for us to live. Nobody punched the clock. Nobody went to school. You know what it is like? Telling an eagle, hey eagle, you can't make your nest. You need to go to school to learn to weave your nest. Hey beaver, how did you make the dam? You didn't go to school. You need to go to school to learn to make a dam to catch a fish. But that's, look at what they did to us. Do you know, brothers and sisters, that you don't breathe through your nose? Your blood does not receive the oxygen through your nose that goes to your lungs. It is your pores that receive that oxygen. But you have to be what they call naked. Naked. You said I was naked? Well, you didn't have any clothes on, then the dad made clothes. Oh, but we believed that we were savages. And then the 2 people that said that we were savages were not Chinese, were not Japanese, they were not Mayan, they were not American Indian. There were 2 people who said we were savages. And then you and I will repeat that. The Arabs and the Caucasian. And we believe them. So when we believe that we were savages because they said it, we telling God Almighty that he didn't know what he was doing when he made us naked. But I'm going to give you guys an example as to what nakedness does. What's it do for you? I was summoned to go to Venezuela. Why? Because an 18-year-old girl didn't like to wear clothes. She would be foaming by her mouth. When they put the clothes on her, she would foam. She'd be nervous. They took her to England, they took her to France, they took her to Japan, they took her all over for psychiatric treatment. And I'm the last man on the totem pole. Well, there's an herbalist over there. He says he cure all kinds of diseases. Just try it. They paid my way to Venezuela. The man even said, look, I'm not going to send no advance payment. I'm going to pay for your passage in your hotel because I have to see your work first. I said, okay, I'll go on that because I'm confident. When I got to Maracaibo, Venezuela, the little girl is in her room naked. The father told me, your patient is in her room. When I got in there, she didn't have any clothes on. She was natural. She said, hi. She said, hi. Are you going to ask me a bunch of questions? I said, I have two. Only two. And depending on the person is responded to, there may only be one. She said, oh yeah? I said, yes. I'm not the psychiatrist or the neuropathologist. I'm someone that's coming from a different perspective with something natural from God Almighty. She said, what's the question? How do you feel when you put your clothes on? She said, come and show you. And she took me to the other room. And what I saw was a bunch of paintings in sand, colored sand, with landscapes, seascapes, all kinds of beautiful things. I said, I don't need to ask the second question. She said, why? I say, has your mother or your father ever tell you that you were snoring profusely? She said, yes, I've been snoring loud ever since I was 8 years of age. What was going on with the girl? She was clogged. She was clogged. But taking off her clothes, she allowed the oxygen to enter her body now all over, not only through her nose. The girl put her clothes back on because I gave her the compound. She began to feel different. I got the $5,000 to do a minute job. That's us. We could do it where no one else could do it.
Right.
But they put fear in us. When we go home tonight, you open that refrigerator and you're going to see some awful things. That's why there is a brother in town that I couldn't call him. His name is Ron Seaborn. Ron Seaborn wrote a book, the Children Health Food Book. Brothers and sisters, try to find that book. You may buy it from me because I'm going to tell Ron to send the book to me. In this book, he's showing the sugar demons, the starch creatures, the meat monsters, and the dairy goose. In there, you have seen the book. Yes. This book, when two little girls took the book home and read this book and saw that the diseases, that all these things that the parents had in the cabinet, when the parents went to work on Monday morning, those two little girls went to work. When they came back from work, the refrigerator was clean, and so was the cabinet. All the canned food was gone. The man called me to curse me out. I said, I told you when I was giving the little girls the book that something strange was going to happen. No, we understand. It is about healing. It's about love. It's about tolerance. But all that comes with what? With the food that you eat. All of the sciences, I could sit here and you could digest all of the philosophy and sciences, and you go home and you eat some pork chops. What difference does it make? So you see, I should be an example. I didn't go to school. And because of that, I'm not eating the stuff that hurts us. I was able to find a cure for AIDS and lupus and herpes. But then, there is something about me that many people find a way with. But they forgot that I am unique. You will not find the leaf on a tree the same as another on that same tree. That is because we were made to be unlike the other. I'm not wiser than you. I'm not dumber than you either. I'm just different than you. And when we put that in perspective as a race, we are not like Chinese. We are not like Eskimos. We are not like European. But we're not better than them. We're just different. But we have never traveled in the path of that difference. Because the Arabs came with a lamb, a book, and a knife. The Christian came with a cow, a hog, and a knife, and a book. And here we are. Here we are. That's okay. We had to live this experience. This is why the church is so valuable. Because it is in the church that we get the blessings, the understanding. We are all product of the church. But now, the Bible states, the herbs are for the healing of the nations. I told my brother who preached for 30 years, I said, my brother, you told Mom that I smoked marijuana. Yes, you did. And what did Mother told you? That I've been smoking marijuana ever since I was 14. But you are a preacher. You should be more benevolent, you should be more kind, you should be more understanding. God made marijuana, but he didn't make the cigarette tobacco that you smoke. So quit throwing stones. Because you eat garbage. You eat what God did not make. I don't do that. I came last Christmas, Mom, and this boy had a hog head on his table. He had a hog head. Now I want to ask him, what did he think he was going to gain from eating that hog head? And he's a preacher for 30 years. Something wrong. We need help. Brothers and sisters, in 1970, I decided to take a trip to Russia. Not for the purpose of doing research into conditioning reflexes. I went there because I wanted to look at the work of Ivan Kertikov and also Rasputin. But when I got there, I got involved in the Pavlovian Institution of Psychology. And what did I learn? That Pavlov conditioned this dog, where the dog would come a certain time of the day to drink this milk. You know why? The same reason, do you remember after Katrina, when the dolphins left with the water, and they told the zookeeper, you lost your 9 dolphins. He said, no, I didn't. They'd be back. Did they come back? Did they? Yes, they did. The dolphins came back. They had to. just like you and I. You could go home today and you see all that food in your house that you know is poison, you're going to eat it. You're going to eat it. Because I did it. I did it. I said, well, I paid for it. I got to eat it. No. The time has come, and the brother said earlier, that we recognize while I was in Russia, I found out that the Pavlovian institution of psychology was based on the usage of starch to condition the dog. Wow. That is exactly what they gave us, starch. Wow. And brothers and sisters, do you know where you find the greatest amount of starch in a substance? It's in sugar. Sure. And what is the thing that we give ourselves and our children? Sugar. I had a lot of it. And I stand before you today as your brother, telling you about the journey of disease and the journey of life. If nature didn't make it, don't take it. Oh, wow. Don't take it if nature didn't make it. I gave a speech in Washington. And a young man named John Claude T, that you may know, he came up with something like a poem or a song. He said, if you don't watch the things you eat will soon eat you. But we didn't have any defense to prepare us for the journey. So Dr. Sebi came and he put a list together, how to avoid certain things, what not to do, because we are sick. He knows it because he's the sickest. But I am standing before you as a healer, something I didn't want to be. Because I'm loud, verbose, I'm vulgar, I'm loose, I'm all of that. But I could cure AIDS. I'm not serious because I don't know what seriousness has to do with understanding. I'm not serious. My brother was serious. He told my mama that I wasn't serious. I told my mama he's right. Because every time I intend to get serious, a stupid laughter smile come over my face. But I want to be serious like him. But I want my brother to tell me what are the virtues of seriousness. I never knew. So brother laid on me. I want to be serious now because it's important to be serious. Oh, I forgot about something. Men are serious and I'm not a man. I'm a male and that's all I am and will always be. I don't know what it is to be a man because I don't know. I don't know what a man is. I know by gender I'm a male, right? Well, just take it further now. Besides being a male gender, I'm a man. What made me a man? I don't know. I'm not a man. I'm not even spiritual. I don't even have a mind because I don't know what these things are. And I can't tell you that I am that when I don't know what they are. But I devoted my life to you. You, especially Black America. You were the one that prepared me to talk to you because I'd never been to school. The very language I speak, when I came to this country from Honduras, I didn't speak it. You showed me. You prepared me. And I'm grateful to you. In my book, I stated that I wanted to give the black woman a gift. I didn't say brothers. I said sisters. Why? I was in a barber chair in New Orleans in 1962, and I made a statement because the brother was to say it was after the hours of barbering. At 8 or 9 o'clock, we're there gathering and eating all this shrimps in New Orleans, you know, and crabs and drinking beer. I said, fellas, why you all talk about sisters like that? Where you come from? This is sapphire. I said, sapphire. That's what they call you, right? Sapphire? Miss Anne? Or something like that? I said, but you came out of her. You came out that woman, isn't it? So how could she be that bad? I said, I'm going to give her a gift. What gift you going to give her? I don't know. But it's in motion. I'm going to give her a gift. Little did I know that the gift was going to be healing. Why I turned it over to the sisters? Because you are the nurturers. I am not a nurturer, I'm a male. I cannot nurture anyone. You are the one. Brothers find that offensive. I find it graceful. I find it rewarding. I find it encompassing. Why? Because we beat you down just like the other races of the world. And I said, I'm not going to be one to do that. I'm going to give her a gift. And brothers and sisters, the sisters have the healing. Dr. Sebi, like he quit working in the dairy farm at 13. He quit working in the commissary at 20. He quit the merchant marine at 30. Now he's quitting healing at 76. And what am I going to do? I'm dedicating myself to vertical, organic, electric agriculture. Just like I developed the African biomineral electric cell phone. That, sisters, brothers and sisters, the African biomineral electric cell phone is registered in the Supreme Court of the United States or New York, that it is the only therapeutical approach to pathology that has benefited humanity. No other, and in one our case, prevailing above the physicians. What does that make us? Thank you. So now, should we create an institute around it? Of course. Because when the attorney, prosecuting attorney, told the judge, Your Honor, he have that the Usher Research Institute cure AIDS. He is the one that cured the AIDS, and he is the one that's saying it. The judge said, but the paper read, Your Honor, AIDS has been cured by the Usher Research Institute. Didn't say nothing about me. She said, who makes up the institute? People that have received benefit from the entity. She said, that is sufficient. That is how all institutes begin. Don't be afraid. We now could erect an institute that the giving of the African biomineral electric cell phone rise supreme above all else. You and I did that. Not me. I'm you standing here. I'm your brother. I am of the same gene as you. How could I be so different? How could I be so smaller than you? In fact, I'm stupid. And I like doing stupid things. I enjoy doing it. Sometime in my house I would drop something on the floor. I'd pick it up, put it back, and drop it again. People would pass in front of me in the cars. I would stop. I say, hey, that's cool. I like that because it shows the degree of tolerance. So in essence this evening, for us to see each other's as we should see each other with love and brother. Because I remember when my mother used to cloak me at night with the cover, you know, when you're kind of chilly, and she come and she pull the cover over you. It feels good, isn't it? Of course it does. But why can't we do that for each other? For one another. But to get to that state, you're not going to get to eating lamb and pork chops. You will not, because it will bother your central nervous system. Okay? So brothers and sisters, you've been here a long time, and I don't want to hold you up too long because there will be a period of question and answer. But in essence, today, what Dr. Sebi came to share with you is that It is food that determines the state of your being. It's not a philosophy, it's not a religion, it's not politics. It's you. The you that they don't want expressed because there is fear. Well, me, I lived it. I owe allegiance to no one but my race. You. I owe allegiance to you, not to a philosophy, especially a philosophy that came out of Europe. Because, you see the tiger showed me that the Bengal tiger, when she has cubs, does she take her cubs to be trained by a Siberian tiger? Does she train her own cubs the ways of the Bengal tiger? But when we take our cubs to be trained, we take them to a European curriculum. And then later on we say, why can't black people listen? We've been listening. We are good listeners. We're so good. We excel in that which we have listened to. We become mechanics like myself. I became an engineer. But we have not listened to that which God designed for us. Once we go back to that design, all the fears, all of the stress will disappear. It has to, because God never made mistakes. But I want to show you guys something that's important, brothers and sisters, that we were told that protein, enzymes, vitamins, and all these things, and if you want to get buff, you got to go and work out. Am I right? Watch this. You think that he had a machine to work out? You think that he had protein to feed his body? Enzymes and vitamins? He didn't have that. He doesn't have that. But look at it. This is a person. These are people that live exactly the way God intended for us to live. And look at them. And they live 100 and some odd years. You get to 90, you're lucky if I get to 90. You understand? That is what we need to do. Come back to this. Oh, you're not going to take your clothes off, and I don't expect you to do that. Because what happened is that they have reduced us so low that they live without no clothes on. And she passed the woman up and she's going that way. But if a sister was to take her clothes off right now in front of us, all eyes would be on her. That's how much we have been reduced. Okay? It should not be. It should not be. We have a barometer. What is it that these noobers are doing that we now are out of shape? I'm great. I don't wear glasses. I'm not impotent anymore. I don't have the aches and the pains, but I'm sick. He dies healthy. He dies in his sleep. Anyone that live above 100 dies in their sleep. They go to sleep, away. But we're going to die with cancer of the breast, cancer of the uterus, cancer of the liver. We're going to die with a disease because we've been fed gasoline instead of diesel. Gorillas are eating polar bear food. Not so good. So are we wise? Are we smart? Yes, we are. All of us are. But we're not on the right track. Instead of us going 90 degrees east, we're going 270 west. Now, Dr. Sebi is delighted that he arrived at the place that he could cure the diseases that they claim is incurable. And that cure is not Dr. Sebi curing AIDS. It's the black race curing AIDS. When the Japanese was working with the immune system, they didn't single out an individual. They said the Japanese people is working with the immune system. Working with the immune system. The immune system, you could go back and read the history of what I'm saying. The immune system doesn't want you to work with it. The immune system needs to be revitalized. It's weak. What you mean you work with the immune system? And he got a Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. Sebi cured AIDS. Then we gave him a chamber pot. You understand? But that's okay. It's a position I'm satisfied with, the one I hold today. I have never been dissatisfied with me, because that's all I have. That's all I own, me. So I'm going to make sure that the me is happy every day. I'll make sure that. I had wives to leave me and say, nigga, get out. Fine. The other one, no one monkey stop, no show, fine. The other one took all my money and everything, fine. And here I am. Going on. Now we have a $200 million project.
All right.
What is in the $200 million project, you? We're buying 1,000 acres of land to grow cotton, and we have a cotton gin, $10 million worth. We have 7 centers: New York, Chicago, Detroit, LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, DC, and Miami. 7. It's going to cost you $35 million. We're going to have a plane that's going to carry 125 people. It costs us $27 million. We also have $5 million for farmers to refurbish their agriculture product, to grow organically grown food, to supply the centers. In the $200 million project, there's also provision made, something that I discovered in New York. I traveled one day to 142nd Street. There was a lady, Miss Mary McCallum. She called me on Monday, that I'm always closed on Mondays, but when she called, she said, Dr. Sebi, I'm sick. Could you heal me? Oh boy. I'm closed on Monday, but I'm coming to see you. Jumping in the cab from Brooklyn to Manhattan. I gave her a comfort. I rubbed her legs with the salve. But the sheet on the bed was supposed to be white, but it was kind of yellowish. The 2 ladies that were there with her, I said to her, please take her to the bathroom and bathe her. I'll be right back. I came back with some sheets and pillowcases and some incense and some oils. And she came back and she said, hey, my toes are pink. I don't feel the pain anymore. And I feel good already. Who changed the sheets? I said, we did. That lady didn't have any money. The treatment came up to about $300. And she goes in her coin purse. And she took $5 out. She said, I'm giving you a down payment on the $300. I said, Miss McCallum, if my mama was standing here and I take this money from you, I think that that frying pan would be across my head again. So knowing that in Compton, in Watts, in Harlem, all over the United States, east side, there are brothers and sisters that are my age, in their 70s, that need help and cannot help themselves because they don't have the money to do that. So we have appropriated $5 million to train sisters and to provide compounds for the needy. A woman asked me, how are you going to get the $200 million? I said, that's easy. Remember 6 years ago when they called you brothers? I said, I'm not one. Don't talk to me like that. Because I didn't march to Washington. I wasn't going to go to Washington. Well, you brothers went to Washington, 1 million of you, and you guys spent on the average of $500 to get there. Some spent up to $3,000 to fly from England. So we're going to average it out of $500, 1 million of you. The only person that made money off the Million Man March was the hotels and the planes and the city of D.C. that they had to pay $5 million or $3 million to have it. We spent $500 million to go to D.C. and say, I love you, and go back home. I have to go all the way to Washington in front of a white wall statue to tell you I love you. No, isn't that something? And it cost me $500 million. So we got a $200 million budget where you're going to invest $200, but you're going to get it back every dime. But what you will do is provide us with the beginning of the process of rejuvenation again. We're going to own something together for the first time. You deserve it. Because what you have done, you would never be able to fathom. I'm a foreigner among you. I could see you better than you see yourself. That you could see me better than I could see myself. But what I see in you, I'm going to give you a glimpse. Where in the world do we go and find individuals, whether black, white, Chinese, Eskimo, or Arab, that have expressed and showed what they could do, equivalent to George Washington called? Where are you going to find that? Where do you go and find a Charles Drew? Where do you go and find an Elijah McCoy? Where do you go and find any one of you? Nowhere in the world but you. So I saw that in you, and I learned that from you. You were one. In 1954, I met a black man in LA. No, in New Orleans. Aubrey Wellington Sinclair, who made a plane in 1929 and flew it from Maine to Maine. He made it in his backyard. And then Dr. Sebi became and cure AIDS. Oh, big deal. I cure AIDS. Well, am I supposed to be tapping the shoulder? Am I supposed to be knighted? No. I'm a servant. And that is all I want to be to you. A servant. I'm not wise, I'm not philosophical, I'm not religious, I'm not spiritual. I am none of that. I am your servant. And thank you very much. Now, we should not push things down people's throats. And that was not my intent. I talk about a whole lot of things because time is running out. So I want to give you a chance to Q&A. First question. Over there. I think you better come here. It's important that you come here to ask the question in the mic, that it would be recorded. It's very important. The brother is asking us a question. Yes, my brother.
I would like to know what do you do with your bone structure?
Your bone structure.
Yeah, your arms, bones.
Yeah, knees and everything else.
Everything.
Okay. Thank you. You go back to your seat now. When I was 30, and with many of you, this may occur. You know, when I used to walk, this knee used to crack. I used to hear a crack in my knee. I was only 30. I had these pains. The brother asked about, what did I do? I drink sea moss. They call it Chondrus crypsis. Comes out of the ocean. It's had potassium iodide, potassium bromide, and potassium phosphate. Potassium phosphate. So when people tell you, you gotta eat your bananas for your potassium. Oh yeah? What potassium? What potassium are you talking about? There are many. There's potassium bromide, potassium iodide, and potassium phosphate. Which are you talking about, sir? Oh, I didn't know there were many. Oh yeah? So the brother asked about what do I do? I drink sea moss. It has calcium. This is why the brother said I could fall on my knees. I could fall on my knees on concrete, not hair. You see? But this is the carpet. This isn't something that I could fall on concrete. I don't feel any pain. But once I did. But remember what I said? If nature doesn't make it, don't take it. Don't take it if nature didn't make it. Once you take that which nature made, it has a balance. A balance that was put there by life itself. That's why I never paid attention or adhered to melanin. Melanin is a word like protein. It never existed, but a word exists to represent it. But when you ask the person who promotes melanin, what is it, and how many electrons per atom does it contain, they don't know anything about it. But they use it. Melanin makes me black. No, that's horrible. Next question.
It's right here. Sebi, there she goes.
Dr. Sebi.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, it's my daughter. I think you know about me, Erica. We've been called. My daughter had been able to sleep. And
Speak in the microphone.
good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I've been dealing with Dr. Sebi's office, I would say, ever since last week. And we ordered some products because my daughter, you talk right now.
You can just say.
Because my daughter had not been able to sleep. She was, go ahead, Brent, you talk.
Okay, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2001. And in 2006, I ordered some of Dr. Sebi's products. I ordered the Maya, the Tata, the Bolo, the Lino, I mean, everything. And it's like, after I ordered these products, you know, I took it, my skin was like flawless. I had no eczema. I didn't have bipolar disorder anymore. I was able to sleep. And now what the doctor is saying that I should get back on a pharmaceutical drug so I can sleep again. But that's what made me not sleep. So now I have insomnia and I'm trying to, you know, get back on these products that I have before, such as the, I've ordered like the Lino last week, the Lupolo, the Maya, and I'm trying to, you know, clean up my system because that's what I think is wrong with me. It's like my system needs cleaning out, you know. But 2006, that's when everything worked, and I ordered everything, and people looked at me, they was like, where did you go? You know, did you take a cruise somewhere? And I've never been on a cruise before, you know, and I was just like refreshed and rejuvenated.
And I think also the environment in California. It happened in 2006 in California. When she came to New York in 2006, she was going in and out of the hospital. But right now, she broke loose from the meds in September. She decided she didn't want to take the medication anymore. So, as I tell her, I said, well, she doesn't look psychotic. So, what I think is that the medication is kind of upset because she don't want to stay on the medication. So the effect is that
right.
Yeah. If you don't stay with me, I won't let you sleep. So right now, we ordered some Banju, we ordered some lip.
Banjo is all she needed.
Well, we took the Banju and it's not
What'd
working.
you say?
I
We
took
took
the
that
Banjo and the
and it's
Banjo
not
didn't
working.
work.
So
But
some more products
wait,
is coming up.
it could be a matter of dosage.
I took one bottle.
Dosage could be the reason. Because a lady, I recommend the Banjo because everybody been claiming about the Banjo. A lady took the Banjo, she said, but I don't feel anything. Sit down. Take 4 tablespoons 3 times a day. She said, I feel a little bit better. Take a bottle a day. And she took it for 5 days. And she's raving over the Banjo now all over Cleveland. It's a matter of dosage. It's not only a substance. But we never know the intensity of the condition, of the situation.
Yeah, maybe that's what.
She needs to take a bottle of Banjo a day for about 3 days and it's over. Because we have been deprived. We have been deprived of iron for 500 long years. So did she, you, and me. So yes, I'm going to see to it that I will personally take care of your condition.
Here's another question. Over
Thank you. Thank you, man. Another question. Yes, sir. Come on. The call. Yes, sir.
Yes, for those of us who market products and things, how can we get your books and your natural products to market and represent you, help distribute the product?
The question was, how do we, who are interested, get the product to sell? Well, we are developing a cadre of people who are interested. We want to sell it because the Japanese want to buy it and they want to become the exclusive distributor of They want to buy 1 million a month, but they want to buy it to be exclusive distributor. If I sell the Japanese my product, oh, I would be happy because they're going to buy 1 million viento a month. 1 million viento a month is showing us $50 million. But you know what the Japanese are going to do? They're going to do what the Nigerian did. The Nigerian is a preacher named Nelson. Nelson used to come every day and buy 12 viento. V-I-E-N-T-O. Viento in Spanish means the wind. I said, Nelson loved me. Nelson loved me. Look, baby, he's buying 12 viento every day. I mean a box, 24. One day, I needed 15 telephone lines. Another Nigerian came to put the lines in, and he saw my product on the desk. He said, I know that product. But he didn't know that he was in Dr. Sebi's office. I know that product. That product is made by Dr. Sebi. That product is good. I buy it from Nelson. I buy it for $300 a bottle. Nelson was getting $300 a bottle of my product, and I'm selling it only for $50. Yes, they will be able to sell the product. Because when I get back to California, I would like for y'all to call this number. 310-838-2490. 310-838-2490. And before I go to the next question, I want to do this. You know, I said that beans and rice are artificial. Well, I want you all to know that the person that made every bean that you put in your mouth, his name is Grigor Mendel. Grigor Mendel. Download Grigor Mendel. He made these things in the 1500s. A man is going to make what you're going to eat for nutrition in a laboratory. Next question.
Hi, hello, Dr. Sebi. Thank you for coming today. I have a question on the first cellular cleansing package. On the package, you recommended that corn chips was edible, and I just want to know if
Corn chips?
Corn chips.
Corn chips? No, corn chips are dangerous.
Corn, period.
You see, corn chips. I was in Honduras in the Maya village, and the guy was taking 12 people around, showing them the Maya ruins. And he looked at me and said, "I know you. You're Dr. Sebi." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I want to see when I'm through with the tour." But I said, "Sir, I want to ask you a question. What did the Maya eat? What did they eat?" Then he stopped. And before he could give me a response, a German woman who was in the group said, "Corn, of course." The man said, "If the Maya ate corn, Dr. Sebi would have known that because he does research." "Dr. Sebi, did the Maya eat corn?" I said, "Impossible." "Why?" I said, "Because every grain that was made that requires that you chop some trees down, you got to chop trees down to plant this animal they call a corn. You got to chop it down, and then you got to till the soil, and you have to do that every year. If this corn was natural, men wouldn't have to do all of that. So therefore, corn is artificial." And another thing that corn has that is a telltale, they call it what? Starch. Anything that has starch, God did not make, because starch is carbonic acid. Starch is an acid, it's a chemical, it's not a food. Next question.
The reason why I asked is when I did the cell cleanser, I noticed that in my bowel movements, everything changed except the corn, air popcorn.
That's right.
The next question was, in your book you referred to the green light. Can you go into details about that a little bit?
The green light?
Yes.
The green light. Are you talking about the green food plus?
I'm not.
The green light.
Too sure, but you said that you gave thanks to green light. I think it was in the introduction of the book.
I mentioned the green light in the book?
Yes.
Green light. I don't know anything about the green light.
It's must be green food plus. I think it's green food.
In the green food plus.
Green food plus.
Yes, because I don't believe that light. Third eye and light and this. No, I don't do that. I don't do any of that. Yes, I know, I understand, and I like it. Next question.
Hello, good evening. I have a question. I work with women, a lot of women who have fibroids, including myself, and I wanted to know what are the first steps that I should tell to my patients, to women that I work with who have fibroids, because especially so many African American women or women of color have fibroids. When you look at other races, what is it that in the mucus system that is causing the fibroids, and what can be done to treat them?
The people that I showed you had, these sisters, none of them have fibroids. They died without fibroids. They never experienced fibroids. They never. Why? Because they never ate starch. Starch breaks down the mucous membrane and begin to deliver carbonic acid. Starch doesn't belong in the body. That's where fibroids come from. All disease come from starch and meat. And meat.
So when I'm first working with patients or introducing them to the concept, just tell everyone to stop eating starch.
If they don't, well, it would be of no use in treating them. Okay. That's what I do in the village of Busa in Honduras. Starch system.
Thank you very much.
One more question? Because we're going to go on the break.
Hello, good night. I want to know if you're interested in training and learning about healing.
We are interested in training.
Yeah.
We will be training. Because that is why we appropriated another $5 million to train the sisters. They have to get away to go to train in the village. Also in the forest, there will be field, and also the armchair research.
Right.
Both. Field and the armchair research. Both are included.
Right.
Because you should know the herb that you're going to use. And what it does and the whole thing.
What would you have to just contact you?
Well, call the number 310 838-2490. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, brother. I got a question about fasting.
About what?
About fasting.
Something why I cannot hear the mic.
Fasting.
Parasite.
Fasting.
Oh, fasting. Why am I hearing this about fasting?
Yeah. So I want to know what is the potent duration for fasting? What are some good concoctions when fasting, like liquid drinks or whatever? And is sex and marijuana hazard to fasting?
Sex and marijuana? When anyone mentions marijuana to me, the first thing that I think about is a child in Ecuador that couldn't talk and he was autistic. And he's talking at age 14 for the first time. The blind man, Mr. Fredericks, that was seeing, his daughter had epilepsy. I gave him marijuana. And in 2 days, no more grand mal for 6 times a day. So about marijuana, I could talk about marijuana. And there is a book written in Ecuador known Hierbas Medicinales del Ecuador, medicinal herb from Ecuador. In there they got 42 treatments of disease with marijuana. The next one was sex. Well, sex is something that I like. I don't know how to answer that because I love sex. And I think that my wife has played a trick on me. I didn't get the message. My wife would say, don't you think that you bothering me a little bit too much? I said, baby, what you talking about? You see, I was under the impression that a man had to satisfy his woman sexually. I was wrong again. Sex is not the thing that you use to control or to please or satisfy any woman. That's never been. You gotta go ahead with a woman. That is what it is. You told me I gotta take a break.
What about the fasting duration?
About the fasting?
Concoctions for fasting.
Consciousness?
The concoctions, the liquids that you use.
Okay, now about fasting. I put Lisa Lopez on a fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And I asked Lisa, what did you see? She said, I saw God. And you need healing, Dr. Sebi. I said, I know that. I was on a fast for 94 days. I saw things too. Because your brain is clear. So you see, fasting is good. For all of you. For everything that you could think of. Remember the boy from Chicago, the little white boy went to Australia and he was walking for 30 days and they found him and he was angry. Why? He was feeling so good. He had not eaten in 30 days. And when I was impotent, I asked my healer. I said, hey, hold it, fella. You know, I'm impotent. I'm only 30. I want to know how come I have to start eating when I got to eat my protein. Got to get my eggs. He said, look, when you stop eating, all that fat that clogged your penis and your prostate gland, all that fat is going to get the opportunity to drain out. When will I see that? I don't know when, but it will be happening before 90 days. The first week, the second week, my asthma began to subside. On the 27th day, my diabetes left. On the 57th day, I woke up to this. Now, I could not process this because in the barber shop in Honduras, when I was 9, 10, and 15, the man used to say, you got to eat a lot of eggs, you got to drink a lot of wine, eat meat. And that was the very thing that made me impotent. So yes, fasting going to heal every part of you that you need to be healed. But right now, they said, I've talked too much, I need to take a break.
Thank you. We're going to take a 15 to 20-minute break. Go to the bathroom.
37.
Just turned 7.
She's young.
So,
A year older than me.
yeah.
She's young.
Yes, she is.
What is dementia or Alzheimer's? Calcification of the brain. Caused by what? The presence of starch. I remember when I was working at Martin Luther King Hospital as a steam engineer, I would oftentimes go into the morgue. And one day, I saw something that was devastating to me. They opened the skull of a woman that had just passed the day before, performing an autopsy. And you know what I saw? I saw plaque, thick, like a half an inch, covering the whole skull. What was that doing to the brain? Preventing the brain from receiving what? Oxygen. That's when Alzheimer's and dementia appears. So mommy could be cured. All we need to do is to break up the calcification. Give her the nourishment. We have to give her large doses of iron phosphate. Yes, you got to call that number, 310-838-2490.
Last question. Will you make a comprehensive review for people that want to do the healing and, you know, like something that they can reference and then maybe call an office for just some sort of advice? Any comprehensive review that you'll make?
Well, you know, we have a booklet, we have periodical that you could ask them to send you.
Okay.
And you could be guided by that.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you, brother. Yes.
Yeah, just before I ask you 2 questions, I just want to say to everybody here, please, networking is important. Please try to find me after, at 8 o'clock or whatever, because I came down from Canada, born in Haiti, long story short, born in Haiti, adopted, recently abandoned by people who adopted me. And the only reason I'm here is because of the same stuff that Sebi's been talking to y'all about today. And it's because, I met a woman and she was talking about the same things. So please, I'm going through a lot right now, but the only reason I don't doubt that I can get through it is because of these same things. And, I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for that woman I met in Haiti. So please come see me. My name's Kenson. I'm just sitting right over there. So yeah.
Got you back.
My 2 questions. First, melanin, right, or the thing that we call carbon that makes our skin black, right?
No, carbon and melanin are 2 different things.
Okay, then clarify that for me, please.
Very good. When I entered the science of the called herbology, one of the things that I had to pay attention to and much consideration was the science of biochemistry. The science of biochemistry would help you to understand that which is real from that which is unreal. Whenever somebody tells you that a substance is good, all you need to ask them, pardon me, sir, are you aware that the human body is electrical? Yes. And are you aware that to feed and to nourish an electric body, that substance must necessarily be electrical? Yes. Thank you. Now, carbon is electrical. Carbon could be found in your body, along with 101 other minerals, making it in total 102 minerals. Wow. But every mineral that you have in your body could be found in the soil, in the clouds, and in the waters, and in the ocean. 102 exact, no more, no less. Never did biochemistry or science found melanin in the earth. So how come it is in my body? How could melanin be in my body when it is not found in the naturalness of life? Impossible. But melanin is a word
that came out of Germany, and now we regurgitate it. Melanin is not the only word. In 1983, I had to go to the Georgetown Pediatric Hospital in Washington, D.C. because of Achilles' trial. She had sickle cell anemia, and she was hospitalized. The doctor said to me, when they review my diet, you have not given a kilo protein in 3 months. I said, I have not given a kilo protein in 3 months? You're overlooking that a killer is playing in the hallway with the other children without the aid of an intravenous feeding machine. And she doesn't have any upper pulmonary disorder. And you are asking me about protein? Dr. Steinberg, what is protein? It's one of the 19 amino acids, the building blocks of life. I said, that is what I've heard and I read. I'm asking you, what is protein? I want to identify it. You see, when someone asks me, why do you give people iron? Because the blood of the human body is composed of iron. That is the food. Is it electrical? Yes, it got 9,000 electrons per atom. How many electrons per atom does melanin contain? Thank you very much. Next question.
Yeah. On that note, I guess the condition which they call vitiligo, the deep
Vitiligo, yes, the whitening of the skin. Discoloration. That tells us right there. Many of us are succumbing to the deficiency of iron. That's all it is. The lack of iron phosphate.
The last question. Obviously, being from Canada, I'm cold all the time, but I found myself really, really, really cold, like a lot.
Cold?
Hats. I'm wearing like a lot of things. I got sweatshirts under this. Like,
I was there, brother. I was there. I used to feel cold in July. Lack of iron. Iron is the only magnetic mineral. It fires you up. Without iron, nothing else works. Iron is like a spark plug in a car. Without them, you cannot turn an engine. I don't care what big of a machine you have. You need that spark plug. Thank you. I'm so pleased to meet you, my sister.
Okay, I have two questions. My sister was diagnosed with osteoarthritis.
Osteoarthritis, yes.
So I just want to know, she's sitting here, but she just can't stand. She wanted to know what she can do about, how it happened, or what she can do about. My second question is for me, and I'm hot flashing to death. I can't stand it, So I just want to know what I can do about that.
Let us take it a notch further about osteoarthritis. What about rheumatoid arthritis? Is that worse? I think so. Eva Britt, Washington, D.C., 1983. She was in a wheelchair. No, a long bed with a machine on it, a motor. And all she could move is these two thumbs. She could not open her leg. She could not do this. She was stiff from the age of 12. She was rheumatoid arthritic. And when I met Eva Britt was 40 years of age. Everybody in D.C. that knew Eva Britt saw her in this bed. She took the treatment. She began to walk at the ending of 4 months. She had a baby at the ending of a year. She went to law school. She's a lawyer now and she's married. What could I do for osteoarthritis? Yes, we could have. Thank you.
Oh, and I had a hot flash. I have hot flashes.
You have what?
Hot flashes.
Well, this is why we made the H1. Female nourisher, H1. When you call the office, you ask them what they have for hot flashes. Why hot flashes? Our sister suffers because they told her a whole bunch of stuff. that she is supposed to go into menopause after she passes the age of 40, not to mention 50 or 60. Well, I know a woman today that are 84 that see their period. She will never get a hot flash. A hot flash comes when the ovaries, just say, my arm is a fallopian tube, and my hand are the ovaries. Inside these ovaries, there are 240,000 ovules. You release one from one ovum on this side 1 month, the other the other. The next month, the other ovum come from the other fallopian tube. So if you have 240,000 in each ovum, each year you only release 6 from each one, because there are 12 months in a year. If you only release 6 from an ovum, from the ovary, and you're 80 years of age, you multiply 6 by 80, 6, 8 is 48. You only have released 480 ovums in 80 years. But you have 240,000. But the others cannot move. Because they clog with what? What's causing them, doctor? The mucus has trapped them and prevent them from being released. That's when the hot flashes begin, because the debris that is backing up in the fallopian tube has to cause some kind of negative reaction. Thank you. Oh, you're going to give me a hug too?
Yeah, I have to give you a hug.
Oh, I am so, oh God. Thank you.
Sebi, peace.
Peace, my brother.
I got 2 questions. My wife was diagnosed with lupus. What is lupus and how can we get rid of it?
Well, the man in the dog.
Deepak.
Did you all remember the man in the dog?
Deepak.
Do you all look at CNN?
Yeah.
Do you all ever see a doctor on the name Sanjay Gupta?
Yeah, Gupta, yeah.
When Sanjay Gupta talks, he talks from a position of authority. That this chemical is going to be good for everybody. Chinese, Japanese, black, Eskimos, and Arabs. But hold it there. Polar bear doesn't eat gorilla's food, nor take his medicine. So how is it that you, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, has invented a chemical that's going to assimilate in the biological structure of an African American? I want you to explain that to us before you proceed explaining all the other stuff that you have to explain. How does an inorganic chemical assimilate in a carbon-based body? No, a carbon-based body only assimilate things that are carbon-based. Lupus, well, all you all have to do to make me out a liar is call Michael Jackson's mother, Catherine. Catherine babysitter is Grace Rwanda from Rwanda, and she had lupus for 10 years, and Deepak Chopra was treating her. 4 days later, she had no pain, and 2 months later, she had no lupus. And the first case of lupus that we cured was in Johns Hopkins Hospital in Washington, D.C. How do we cure it? What is lupus? Lupus is a yeast disease. It's yeast eating you up, affecting your whole central nerve system, the glands, especially the thyroid glands. It suffers. We cure lupus.
Last question is for my children. I got a big problem with vaccinations. What do you have to stimulate the immune system?
I didn't have any problem with vaccination. I have 18 children and not one was vaccinated. Well, what do you do? What do you do? You just say no. You're going to have to prove to me, Mr. Physician, how is putting into my child a little bit of the disease is going to help my child. I want you scientifically to go to the blackboard and put that into an equation that makes sense. No. What you need to strengthen your immune system is what, Doc? Come on, Doc. What let me down?
Iron.
I've been to Africa 1,000 times. I never get no shots. I never will.
That's true.
And children who got the shot died in Africa. And those that took my compound came back and they died. They're much, very much alive. Yes, sir. Next question.
Grace and peace, everyone. My name is Dawn. I suffer with acid reflux.
Acid reflux. Duodenum, stomach, chest, colon, not colon, small intestines. Acid reflux. Well, I could take my little granddaughter, eat salad. Did you get a chance to meet Isala the other day when she came to the house? Isala was born with acid reflux because her mother was eating chicken and potato chips. My daughter was eating potato chips and some other stuff behind my back. And when she became pregnant, the child was sick, but the child is no longer sick. Because we flushed out the reason why the child was suffering with acid reflux, which is what? Very strong piece of clogging mucus, a bed of mucus in the whole digestive tract. My mother was suffering with something like acid reflux. She was complaining all the time. I said, I'm going to fix this woman. I took her to Puerto Rico and I locked the gates. Can't leave the house now. And there's nothing to eat in the house, girl.
And the herb to get rid of it.
What you said?
And how can I get rid of it?
How could you be rid of it?
Of the herb.
Well, all you have to do is to call the number 310 838 2490. And you will get in touch with either Zabe or Jamila. And let me tell you something. These two girls, they're young. My daughter never been to school. I never teach my daughter anything. I didn't beat my daughter. I didn't teach her anything. Yet she's curing AIDS and lupus and herpes and blindness right now. And she's only 25.
Beautiful.
You see? It's easy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister.
Doctor, I don't have a question. The other question I have is someone that's sitting in the audience. There's a BMW black parked in the garage for the van can't get out. If someone could please go out and move it.
The license number?
I don't have that.
Yes, sister.
Hi, please tell me.
Please.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, do you have any remedies for regeneration of tissue that are the results of unnatural means, like a torn shoulder from heavy lifting over the years?
Ligaments, connective tissues, ligaments, connective tissues, and what else?
Well, that's the first thing. I asked mainly because my mother is scheduled to have a surgery on a torn shoulder, and I'm wondering if there's any natural alternatives that she can explore to avoid going through that process.
Sister, a young man came to us with this shoulder blade protruding, and I said to him, he said, you need to manipulate it back in place. I said, go get in the thermal water. And he came back and it was in place. Sit in some thermal waters. What was the disease?
What is the disease in a specific instance?
What was the disease that you asked about?
It's not a disease. It's a torn shoulder. I think probably due to
Oh, right. That's why I went there. Everything connects. Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass had a torn spinal cord. Severed. The doctor said it would never regenerate again. When they took him back to the hospital in Philadelphia, the Russian doctor that was attending him said, when they asked the nurse, well, how is he doing? Is he getting worse every day? Oh no, he's getting better. What do you mean better? His triceps are back. No, his biceps are back. He said, you're crazy. She said, you're right. His triceps are back. He said that could only occur with cell regeneration. Well, let me tell you all something, that the philosophy of medicine that we all know came out of Europe. And they claim everything. Have we ever stopped for 1 minute and asked questions about their premise? No. We are in complete compliance with their premise because we didn't have another to go to. And the other alternatives, they bring garbage, more garbage than the doctors. Trust me, the alternative is only an alternative. Doesn't mean that the alternative is complementary. You understand now? There are many alternatives. The Ayurvedic, the Yin Yang, the microbiotic, the allopathic, the homeopathic, oh my God, the wrong thing. Oh, they got a whole bunch more. But nobody's curing anything. You see? What we do? The bio-mineral bottles, the African bio-mineral bottles. I made sure they put African on there. You see, I'm not a Chinese. And you're looking at me, right? I don't look like an Eskimo or an Arab. I'm a black man straight out the jungles of Africa. And I live that now. I'm not going to drop my clothes in front of you because you're going to think I'm despicable. But I'll live naked in my house and in my village, Honduras. Because I know I could only do it at night because everybody comes from all over the world. And I wait till about 8 o'clock at night. I take all my clothes off and I run through the village. Oh my God. I'm in seventh heaven. I'm in seventh heaven. I'm relaxed because I'm getting oxygen all through my body, not through my nose. Because look at us. This is exposed. And this, the rest is covered up. But wait. Religion came and said, you're savage. Nakedness is indicative of a savage. Hold it, mister. I'm God's child. If God wanted me to have clothes, God would have made clothes. And I'm wearing them. God didn't make no clothes. And that kept me chilling. Like brandy. That's brandy there, see? Next question.
So just to be clear, you do have products that can help
of course.
generation, even if it's done by
Sister, we have products to help everything. You know why? We don't make any specific product for specific disease. We make one product, cleanse and revitalize, and everything goes. Oh, it's understood. You know, I'm not a teacher. I could not even subscribe to that because I'm the man that didn't go to school, so how could I be a teacher? Yes, question?
Sorry, the last question. Scleroderma, are you familiar with it? Can you tell me what the origins of that disease is? Because it seems to be a very unknown condition. I have a cousin that's going through it right now, and it's affecting yes. It affects all her major organs, pigmentation, elasticity, all that, her appetite. It's pretty bad, so if you can get into that a little bit.
What causes scleroderma? What did you say?
Iron, like an iron.
He said mucus. And he was right. Every disease comes from one source. Remember when I was arrested, the prosecuting attorney said, this man comes with a philosophy. What do you call it? A one disease theory. I say, Your Honor, have you been to an AIDS ward? She said, yes. What is it that the AIDS patient oftentimes spits out? She said, mucus. I said, Your Honor, my most humble and distinguished prosecuting attorney, Mr. Barton, said, where is the mucus with AIDS with the one disease theory? Well, to the Caucasian race, we have to give them much love. Really. They need much love. No, I'm not kidding you. Nobody on the earth needs love more than the Caucasians. And you, who are his healer, you hate him. But the man is sick. But we anger the sick man.
It's true.
And we talk about him. And we keep on talking what he's doing. And he keep on doing what he's doing. You're not going to stop until you heal him. Anybody here saw a cartoon that was made in Africa named Kirikou? Yes. Oh my God. Everybody saw Kirikou. Kirikou teach me Did it teach you something, sister?
Yes.
I took Kirikou to Honduras, and I took 5 little girls from 15 to 9, and they all stood in front of Kirikou. And when it was over with, I asked my little girl, my daughter, my last one, before the next one is 15. I said, Sama, what did you learn from Kirikou? That there aren't any bad people in the world. That there are sick people in the world. Right?
Yes.
She had a thorn in her side.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I don't believe that there is any DVD that could educate you in a half an hour as deep, as profound as Kirikou. He's a little boy that was knowing everything when he was born. That's us. That used to be us. You see an elephant, when she birthed an elephant child, what happens? That elephant begins to run immediately and walk. But when you are babies, you have to wait 9 months. Oh, you have to wait 9 months for this thing to walk. Well, I tell you what. My little girl, just talk about Sa'ama. Sa'ama was walking at 6.5 months. Close to 7. I body trained Sa'ama at 7 months. She was body trained. She had no more feces in her diapers. She went to that party because her daddy understood that babies understand just as much as grown-ups. You just got to take them and train them.
That's true.
That's all.
That's true.
I love raising babies. Babies are beautiful. I would raise 18 more. I have 18 already. I would love to have 36. To get the fun to raise this baby because I can see them. I love them. They're wise.
That's true. That's so true.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my sister. Oh, wow. Wow, look at this. This is Dr. Sebi's book.
We got him.
Excellent. Oh, wow. In this book, I talk about you black woman. In this book, I talk about the thing that we all should know. This book sells for $20. This one here, I made this because in 1962, I said to a group of people in a barber chair, Tim Barbershop. Anybody here from New Orleans? That's my age, old like me. There was a barbershop on Claiborne Avenue named Tim Barbershop. I said to them, one day, I'm going to make a product. And it's not going to cost no more than $50. But this product is going to work on your intestines, on your nerve, on your energy, and your muscles. And there's another area that they made it for. Do you know what a man told my daughter when he took this? My daughter is tricky. My daughter used sciences that I never used in my life. When people would come to the USHA, to Dr. Sebi's office in LA, she would take 3 of these pills in this bottle. And I wish that I had them earlier because I would have given randomly 3 to you. And in less than an hour, my daughter would make the person go, what is that in that bottle? I never seen that before. And what's that in there? Oh, well, just a minute. She would go in the back and bring 3 with a glass of water. Take this. And in about an hour, the person run back. I want what you gave in that bottle. When I was in St. Croix, there's a man named Cedric Baines. Cedric Baines is a Sagittarius like me. He said to my wife now, don't you ever mess with that man. That man is crazy. He told that to Matun. Matun is my wife now. And I have a daughter that's 25. I go to St. Croix. I say, Cedric, of all people in St. Croix, I remember you. And I bought you a present. And I gave him a bottle. The boy took the bottle. 2 days later, he's telling me all kind of nonsense about how his bowels is regulated. how his energy and his sex, oh, I forgot about the sex part of it. This is not Viagra. This is not gonna pump your blood pressure up to erect your penis. This is gonna work on your brain, on your prostate gland, and your nervous system. So when you get an erection here, you're not gonna have any after negative effect. And you're gonna feel it for months to come. This product is good for women that talk about tiredness and dysmenorrhea and amenorrhea and the whole bit that suffers, our sister suffers from after they pass the age of 60 or 70. This sister by the name of, oh boy, I got to call her name. She came and she's 72. And she came poorly, oh so poorly. And 3 months later, or 6 months later, the woman came in the office and she had a waistline and her hair was in cornrow. What's her name? This woman looks so good. I said, girl. She said, yeah, that's what you did. And don't touch me if you ain't serious. She's 72. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to share this because this just happened in Honduras. And it was something that stunned me. I got to mention it. A woman came to Honduras with her breast rotten off. What? Completely rotten. I mean, it was rotten off. Their husband used to pull pieces off sometimes. And I put a poultice on there that is made from a plant that very few people have heard, and the FDA has never heard of it. They call it Contribo. And guess what? After 2 months of putting that thing on her body, what we noticed, she was doing something that she wasn't supposed to do. Her and her husband was having sex every night practically. The woman that came down with breast cancer. In 2 months, when Chepita saw what was occurring, she called me. And when I looked, what you all think I saw? I want someone to take a guess. The woman's breast was rotten off, gone. What'd you say? A brand new breast grew back. With a nipple on it. But brothers and sisters, does gland go back? Yeah, they go back. All glands go back. You only have to allow the body the environment for glands to go back. Right here in the city, Zadia E. Faith came with myasthenia gravis, degeneration of the cells of the brain. It grew back. The cut a thymus gland out 5 years prior, it grew back. Oh, that's a miracle. Miracle? To whom? Not to us. But brothers and sisters, I'm going to have to shortchange you. I love you so very much. And I do honor and respect your presence. But I have a radio program in Cleveland, Ohio at 8 o'clock. I've got to be on the radio, via telephone. But the good Reverend and the people that helped this to be possible, here is one. Paul and Philip, a beautiful lady's children, which teach me a lesson. Her mother, she was feeding his youngest brother named Kimani. And I left Annette sitting down by the stove. And I went to buy something for her. When I came back, I saw a line of men like that, taking turns. I said, what are they doing? I wonder what these men are looking at. Guess what they were looking at? They were looking at this young man's mother breastfeeding his brother. And that was strange. That was the most abnormal thing that you could ever see. You see where they got us? You see, brother? We need love. So because of these young brothers that we didn't help, we didn't leave anything for them. When they began to rap about the language they use, we were angry at them. But that was exactly what we were doing. Yeah. Now, these youngsters are not about philosophy and religion. No, they know better. They know that religion divides you. Because when I went to Africa, the people that live in the northern part of Nigeria, they call themselves Hausas. The Hausa is a Muslim. The Yoruba live in the west. They're both Nigerian. One is a Yoruba and one is a Hausa. So we as Yorubas, we are supposed to kill Hausas. Why? Because he's a Muslim. And why do you have to kill him? I don't know why he's a Muslim. In a way, there may be reasons. Because, you see, when we were living in the forest, without the clothes, without the hospitals, without the doctors, and the H1N1 vaccine, the Arabs came and they brought their religion and a knife and also a diet. They brought lamb and barley. When the Christian came, they brought a heart and another book and another knife. So look at us today, religious. That's why I don't deal that. I'm your brother, right? Your brother. So his mother was standing there, poor old Annette. She was innocent to what was going down. So I asked one of the men, why are they looking at her? Because they didn't know I was with Annette. A woman is not supposed to feed her child for breast. That's for a man.
What?
That is in the island of Curacao, the Dutch West Indies. That's where they got us. That's why we have to be so careful. We have to be so careful. When I come in contact with a brother or a sister, the first thing I want to do is what I told the people in the church on No Strand on Church Street. The church is there. A woman was very intelligent to ask me a question that no one has ever asked me. Dr. Sebi, what have you learned from the entity that you bring to us? What did I learn from the entity of healing? Don't get shocked. Because what I'm about to say is the God in heaven truth. I learned to kiss everybody's butt. That's what I learned. I make it easy. I make it very easy. Because when I do that, then I could not offend you. But in interrelating with you, I could say something, I could do something that offend you and I don't even know about it. But in kissing your butt, I'm doing something that compliments you and you're going to like. So a woman heard that I did that in New York on Nostrand and Church Street, and she's in my office in LA, and she said, I heard that you told folks in New York that you kiss everybody's butt. Do you literally? I said, drop your pants. Brothers, I came out those two cheeks. I could go back and kiss it again. Delight to the soul. Big kiss. No problem. You see how easy it is? But brothers and sisters, I hate to call this thing to an end because I'm late. I'm going to have to make it to the walk to the Marriott in the minutes that I have before 8 o'clock. But I thank you. And believe me, I will be back to you. I will be back to you as often as you request it. I love you. I really love you.
Your mom have your picture with you? Your mom have your phone? Let the man go now. Let the guy go now. Look at that. She went outside. Come, she's outside.
She just turned 77.
77?
Just turned 7.
She's young.
October.
A year older than me.
Yeah.
She's young.
Yes, she is.
What is dementia or Alzheimer's? Calcification of the brain. Caused by what? The presence of starch. I remember when I was working at Martin Luther King Hospital as a steam engineer, I would oftentimes go into the morgue. And one day, I saw something that was devastating to me. They opened the skull of a woman that had just passed the day before, performing an autopsy. And you know what I saw? I saw plaque, thick, like a half an inch, covering the whole skull. What was that doing to the brain? Preventing the brain from receiving what? Oxygen. That's when Alzheimer's and dementia appears. So mommy could be cured. All we need to do is to break up the calcification. Give her the nourishment. You have to give her large doses of iron phosphate. Yes, you got to call that number, 310-838-2490.
Last question. Will you make a comprehensive review for people that want to do the healing, you know, like something that they can reference and then maybe call office for just some sort of advice? Any comprehensive review that you'll make?
Well, you know, we have a booklet, we have periodicals that you could ask them to send you.
Okay.
And you could be guided by that. Sure. Thank you, brother.
Yes. Yeah, just before I ask you 2 questions, I just want to say to everybody here, please, networking is important. Please try to find me after, at 8 o'clock or whatever, because I came down from Canada, born in Haiti, long story short, born in Haiti, adopted, recently abandoned by the people who adopted me. And, the only reason I'm here is because of the same stuff that Sebi's been talking to y'all about today. And it's because, I met a woman and she was talking about the same things. So please, I'm going through a lot right now, but the only reason I don't doubt that I can get through it is because of these same things. And, I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for that woman that I met in Haiti. So please come see me. My name is Kenson. I'm just sitting right over there. So yeah.
Got your back.
My 2 questions first. Melanin, right? Or the thing that you call carbon that makes our skin black, right?
No, carbon and melanin are 2 different things.
Okay, then clarify that for me, please.
Very good. When I entered the science of the called herbology, one of the things that I had to pay attention to and much consideration was the science of biochemistry. The science of biochemistry would help you to understand that which is real from that which is unreal. Whenever somebody tells you that a substance is good, all you need to ask them, pardon me, sir, are you aware that the human body is electrical? Yes. And are you aware that to feed and to nourish an electric body, that substance must necessarily be electrical? Yes. Thank you. Now, carbon is electrical. Carbon could be found in your body, along with 101 other minerals, making it in total 102 minerals. Wow. But every mineral that you have in your body could be found in the soil, in the clouds, and in the waters, and in the ocean. 102, exact. No more, no less. Never did biochemistry or science found melanin in the earth. So how come it is in my body? How could melanin be in my body when it is not found in the naturalness of life? Impossible. But melanin is a word that came out of Germany, and now we regurgitate it. Melanin is not the only word. In 1983, I had to go to the Georgetown Pediatric Hospital in Washington, D.C. because of Achilles' struggle. She had sickle cell anemia, and she was hospitalized. The doctor said to me, when they review my diet, you have not given a kilo protein in 3 months. I say, I have not given a kilo protein in 3 months? You're overlooking that a killer is playing in the hallway with the other children without the aid of an intravenous feeding machine. And she doesn't have any upper pulmonary disorder. And you are asking me about protein? Dr. Steinberg, what is protein? It's one of the 19 amino acids, the building blocks of life. I say, that is what I've heard and I've read. I'm asking you, what is protein? I want to identify it. You see, when someone asks me, why do you give people iron? Because the blood of the human body is composed of iron. That is the food. Is it electrical? Yes, it got 9,000 electrons per atom. How many electrons per atom does melanin contain? Thank you very much. Next question.
Yeah. On that note, I guess the condition which they call vitiligo, the depigmentation.
Vitiligo, yes, the whitening of the skin. Discoloration. That tells us right there. Many of us are succumbing to the deficiency of iron. That's all it is. The lack of iron phosphate.
And the last question. Obviously, being from Canada, I'm cold all the time, but I find myself really, really, really cold, like a lot.
Cold?
I'm wearing hats, I'm wearing like a lot of things, I got sweatshirts under this. Like,
I was there, brother. I was there. I used to feel cold in July. Lack of iron. Iron is the only magnetic mineral that fires you up. Without iron, nothing else works. Iron is like a spark plug in a car. Without them, you cannot turn an engine. I don't care what big of a machine you have. You need that spark plug. Thank you. I'm so pleased to meet you, my sister.
Okay, I have two questions. My sister was diagnosed with, osteoarthritis.
Osteoarthritis, yes.
So I just want to know, she's sitting here, but she just can't stand. She wanted to know what she can do about, how it happened, or what she can do about it. My second question is for me, and I'm hot flashing to death. I can't stand it, So I just want to know what I can do about that.
Let us take it a notch further, above. Osteoarthritis. What about rheumatoid arthritis? Is that worse? I think so. Eva Britt, Washington, D.C., 1983. She was in a wheelchair. No, a long bed with a machine on it, a motor. And all she could move is these two thumbs. She could not open her leg. She could not do this. She was stiff from the age of 12. She was rheumatoid arthritic. And when I met Eva Britt was 40 years of age. Everybody in D.C. that knew Eva Britt saw her in this bed. She took the treatment. She began to walk at the ending of 4 months. She had a baby at the ending of a year. She went to law school. She's a lawyer now and she's married. What could I do for osteoarthritis? Yes, look at that. Thank you.
Oh, when I had the hot flash. I have hot flashes.
You have what?
Hot flashes.
Well, this is why we made the H1. Female nourisher, H1. When you call the office, you ask them what they have for hot flashes. Why hot flashes? Our sister suffers because they told her a whole bunch of stuff that she is supposed to go into menopause after she passes the age of 40, not to mention 50 or 60. Well, I know a woman today that are 84 that see their period. She will never get a hot flash. A hot flash comes when the ovaries, just say, my arm is a fallopian tube, and my hand are the ovaries. Inside these ovaries, there are 240,000 ovules. You release one from one ovum on this side 1 month, the other the other. The next month, the other ovum come from the other fallopian tube. So if you have 240,000 in each ovum, each year you only release 6 from each one because there are 12 months in a year. If you only release 6 from an ovum, from the ovary, and you're 80 years of age, you multiply 6 by 80, 6, 8 is 48. You only have released 480 ovums in 80 years. But you have 240,000. But the others cannot move. Because they clog with what? What's causing them, doctor? The mucus has trapped them and prevent them from being released. That's when the hot flashes begin, because the debris that is backing up in the fallopian tube has to cause some kind of negative reaction. Thank you. Oh, you're going to give me a hug too?
Yeah, I have to give you a hug.
Oh, I am so, oh God. Thank you.
Sebi, peace.
Peace, my brother.
I got 2 questions. My wife was diagnosed with lupus. What is lupus and how can we get rid of it?
Well, the man in the dog.
Deepak.
Did y'all remember the man in the dog?
Deepak Chopra.
Do y'all look at CNN?
Yeah.
Do y'all ever see a doctor on the name Sanjay Gupta?
Yeah, Gupta, yeah.
When Sanjay Gupta talks, he talks from a position of authority. That this chemical is going to be good for everybody. Chinese, Japanese, black, Eskimos, and Arabs. But hold it there. Polar bear doesn't eat gorilla's food, nor take his medicine. So how is it that you, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, has invented a chemical that's going to assimilate in the biological structure of an African American? I want you to explain that to us before you proceed explaining all the other stuff that you have to explain. How does an inorganic chemical assimilate in a carbon-based body? No, a carbon-based body only assimilate things that are carbon-based. Lupus, well, all you all have to do to make me out a liar is call Michael Jackson's mother, Catherine. Catherine babysitter is Grace Rwanda from Rwanda, and she had lupus for 10 years, and Deepak Chopra was treating her. 4 days later, she had no pain, and 2 months later, she had no lupus. And the first case of lupus that we cured was in Johns Hopkins Hospital in Washington, D.C. How do we cure it? What is lupus? Lupus is a yeast disease. It's yeast eating you up, affecting your whole central nervous system, your glands, especially the thyroid glands. It suffers. We cure lupus.
Last question is for my children. I got a big problem with vaccinations. What do you have to strengthen the immune system?
I didn't have any problem with vaccination. I had 18 children and not one was vaccinated. Well, what do you do? What do? You just say no. You're going to have to prove to me, Mr. Physician, how is putting into my child a little bit of the disease. It's going to help my child. I want you scientifically to go to the blackboard and put that into an equation that makes sense. No. What you need to strengthen your immune system is what, Doc? Come on, Doc. Don't let me down. Iron. I've been to Africa 1,000 times. I never get no shots. I never will.
That's true.
And children who got the shot died in Africa. And those that took my compound came back and they died. They're very much alive. Yes, sir. Next question.
Grace and peace, everyone. My name is Dawn. I suffer with acid reflux.
Acid reflux. Duodenum, stomach, chest, colon, not colon, small intestines. Acid reflux. Well, I could take my little granddaughter, Isala. Did you get a chance to meet Isala the other day when she came to the house? Isala was born with acid reflux because her mother was eating chicken and potato chips. My daughter was eating potato chips and some other stuff behind my back. And when she became pregnant, the child was sick, but the child is no longer sick. Because we flushed out the reason why the child was suffering with acid reflux, which is what? Very strong piece of clogging mucus, a bed of mucus in the whole digestive tract. My mother was suffering with something like acid reflux. She was complaining all the time. I said, I'm going to fix this woman. I took her to Puerto Rico and I locked the gates. Can't leave the house now. And there's nothing to eat in the house, girl.
And the herb to get rid of it.
What you say?
And how can I get rid of it?
How could you be rid of it?
With other herbs or?
Well, all you have to do is to call the number 310 838 2490. And you will get in touch with either Zave or Jamila. And let me tell you something. These two girls, they're young. My daughter never been to school. I never teach my daughter anything. I didn't beat my daughter. I didn't teach her anything. Yet she's curing AIDS and lupus and herpes and blindness right now. And she's only 25.
Beautiful.
You see? It's easy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister.
Doctor, I don't have a question. The other question I have is to someone that's sitting in the audience. There's a BMW black parked in the garage for the van can't get out. If someone could please go out and move it.
The license number?
I don't have to.
Yes, sister.
Hi, please tell me.
Please.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, do you have any remedies for regeneration of tissue that are the results of unnatural means, like a torn shoulder from heavy lifting over the years?
Ligaments, connective tissues, ligaments, connective tissues, and what else?
Well, that's the first thing. I asked mainly because my mother is scheduled to have a surgery on a torn shoulder, and I'm wondering if there's any natural alternatives that she can explore to avoid going through that process.
Sister, a young man came to us with this shoulder blade protruding, and I said to him, he said, you need to manipulate it back in place. I said, we'll get in the thermal water. And he came back and it was in place. Sit in some thermal waters. What was the disease?
What is the disease in a specific instance?
What was the disease that you asked about?
It's not a disease. It's a torn shoulder. I think probably
Oh, right. That's why I went there. Everything connects. Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass had a torn spinal cord. Severed. The doctor said it would never regenerate again. When they took him back to the hospital in Philadelphia, the Russian doctor that was attending him said, when they asked the nurse, well, how is he doing? Is he getting worse every day? Oh no, he's getting better. What do you mean better? His triceps are back. No, his biceps are back. He said, you're crazy. She said, you're right. His triceps are back. He said that could only occur with cell regeneration. Well, let me tell you all something, that the philosophy of medicine that we all know came out of Europe. And they claim everything. Have we ever stopped for 1 minute and asked questions about their premise? No. We are in complete compliance with their premise because we didn't have another to go to. And the other alternatives, they bring garbage, more garbage than the doctors. Trust me, the alternative is only an alternative. Doesn't mean that the alternative is complementary. You understand now? There are many alternatives. The Ayurvedic, the Yin Yang, the microbiotic, the allopathic, the homeopathic. Oh my God, the wrong thing. Oh, they got a whole bunch more. But nobody's curing anything. You see? What we do? The bio-mineral bottles, the African bio-mineral bottles. I made sure they put African on there. You see, I'm not a Chinese. And you're looking at me, right? I don't look like an Eskimo or an Arab. I'm a black man straight out the jungles of Africa. And I live that now. I'm not going to drop my clothes in front of you because you're going to think I'm despicable. But I'll live naked in my house and in my village in Honduras. Because I know I could only do it at night because everybody comes from all over the world. And I wait till about 8 o'clock at night. I take all my clothes off and I run through the village. Oh my God. I'm in 7th heaven. I'm in 7th heaven. I'm relaxed because I'm getting oxygen all through my body, not through my nose. Because look at us. This is exposed, and this, the rest is covered up. But wait. Religion came and said, you're savage. Nakedness is indicative of a savage. Hold it, mister. I'm God's child. If God wanted me to have clothes, God would have made clothes. And I'm wearing. God didn't make no clothes. And that kept me chilling. Like brandy. That's brandy there, see? Next question.
So just to be clear, you do have products that can help
of course.
generation, even if it's done by
Sister, we have products to help everything. You know why? We don't make any specific product for specific disease. We make one product, cleanse and revitalize, and everything goes. Oh, it's understood. You know, I'm not a teacher. I could not even subscribe to that because I'm the man that didn't go to school, so how could I be a teacher? Yes, question?
Sorry, the last question. Scleroderma, are you familiar with it? Can you tell me what the origins of that disease is? Because it seems to be a very unknown condition. I have a cousin that's going through it right now, and it's affecting all, I think so, yes. It affects all her major organs, pigmentation, elasticity, all that, her appetite. It's pretty bad, so if you can get into that a little bit.
What causes scleroderma? What did you say? He said mucus. And he was right. Every disease comes from one source. Remember when I was arrested, the prosecuting attorney said, this man comes with a philosophy. What do you call it? A one disease theory. I say, Your Honor, have you been to an AIDS ward? She said, yes. What is it that the AIDS patient oftentimes spits out? She said, mucus. I said, Your Honor, my most humble and distinguished prosecuting attorney, Mr. Barton, said, where is the mucus with AIDS with the one disease theory? Well, to the Caucasian race, we have to give them much love. Really. They need much love. No, I'm not kidding you. Nobody on the earth needs love more than the Caucasians. And you, who are his healer, you hate him. But the man is sick. But we end with a sick man.
That's true.
And we talk about him. And we keep on talking what he's doing, and he keep on doing what he's doing. He's not going to stop until you heal him. Anybody here saw a cartoon that was made in Africa named Kirikou?
Yes.
Oh my God. Everybody saw Kirikou. Kirikou teach me. Did they teach you something, sister?
Yes.
I took Kirikou to Honduras, and I took 5 little girls from 15 to 9, and they all stood in front of Kirikou. And when it was over with, I asked my little girl, my daughter, my last one, before the next one is 15. I said, Sama, what did you learn from Kirikou? That there aren't any bad people in the world. That there are sick people in the world. Right?
Yes.
She had a thorn in her side.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I don't believe that there is any DVD that could educate you in a half an hour as deep, as profound as Kirikou. He's the little boy that was knowing everything when he was born. That's us. That used to be us. You see an elephant, when she birthed an elephant child, what happens? That elephant begins to run immediately and walk. But when you are babies, you have to wait 9 months. Oh, you have to wait 9 months for this thing to walk. Well, I tell you what. My little girl, just talk about Sama. Sama was walking at 6.5 months, close to 7. I body trained Sama at 7 months. She was body trained. She had no more feces in her diapers. She went to that body because her daddy understood that babies understand just as much as grown-ups. You just got to take them and train them.
That's true.
That's all. I love raising babies. Babies are beautiful. I would raise 18 more. I have 18 already. I would love to have 36. To get the fun to raise this baby because I can see them. I love them. They're wise.
That's true. That's so true.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, my sister. Oh, wow. Wow, look at this. This is Dr. Sebi's book.
You got it.
Excellent.
Oh, wow. In this book, I talk about you black woman. In this book, I talk about the thing that we all should know. This book sells for $20. This one here, I made this because in 1962, I said to a group of people in a barber chair, Tim Barbershop. Anybody here from New Orleans? That's my age, old like me. There was a barbershop on Claiborne Avenue named Tim Barbershop. I said to them, one day, I'm going to make a product. And it's not going to cost no more than $50. But this product is going to work on your intestines, on your nerve, on your energy, and your muscles. And there's another area that they made it for. Do you know what a man told my daughter when he took this? My daughter is tricky. My daughter used sciences that I never used in my life. When people would come to the to Dr. Sebi's office in LA, she would take 3 of these pills in this bottle. And I wish that I had them earlier because I would have given randomly 3 to you. And in less than an hour, my daughter would make the person go, what is that in that bottle? I never seen that before. And what's that in there? Oh, well, just a minute. She would go in the back and bring 3 with a glass of water. Take this. And in about an hour, the person would run back. I want what you gave in that bottle. When I was in St. Croix, there's a man named Cedric Baines. Cedric Baines is a Sagittarius like me. He said to my wife now, don't you ever mess with that man. That man is crazy. He told that to Matun. Matun is my wife now. and I have a daughter that's 25. I go to St. Croix. I say, Cedric, of all people in St. Croix, I remember you. And I bought you a present, and I gave him a bottle. The boy took the bottle. 2 days later, he's telling me all kind of nonsense about how his bowels is regulated, how his energy and his sex. Oh, I forgot about the sex part of it. This is not Viagra. This is not going to pump your blood pressure up to erect your penis. This is going to work on your brain, on your prostate gland, and your nervous system. So when you get an erection here, you're not going to have any after negative effect. And you're going to feel it for months to come. This product is good for women that talk about tiredness and dysmenorrhea and amenorrhea and the whole bit that suffers, our sister suffers from after they pass the age of 60 or 70. This sister by the name of, oh boy, I got to call her name. She came and she's 72. And she came poorly, oh so poorly. And 3 months later, or 6 months later, the woman came in the office and she had a waistline and her hair was in cornrow. What's the name? This woman looks so good. I said, girl. She said, yeah, that's what you did. And don't touch me if you ain't serious. She's 72. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to share this because this just happened in Honduras. And it was something that stunned me. I got to mention it. A woman came to Honduras with her breast rotten off. What? Completely rotten. I mean, it was rotten off. Their husband used to pull pieces off sometimes. And I put a poultice on there that is made from a plant that very few people have heard, and the FDA has never heard of it. They call it Contribo. And guess what? After 2 months of putting that thing on her body, what we noticed, she was doing something that she wasn't supposed to do. Her and her husband was having sex every night practically. The woman that came down with breast cancer. In 2 months, when Chepita saw what was occurring, she called me. And when I looked, what you all think I saw? I want someone to take a guess. The woman's breast was rotten off, gone. What'd you say? A brand new breast grew back. With a nipple on it. But brothers and sisters, does gland go back? Yeah, they go back. All glands go back. You only have to allow the body the environment for glands to go back. Right here in the city, Zadia E. Faith came with myasthenia gravis, degeneration of the cells of the brain. It grew back. The color thymus gland, out 5 years prior, it grew back. Oh, that's a miracle. Miracle? To whom? Not to us. But brothers and sisters, I'm going to have to shortchange you. I love you so very much. And I do honor and respect your presence. But I have a radio program in Cleveland, Ohio at 8 o'clock. I've got to be on the radio, via telephone. But the good Reverend and the people that helped this to be possible, here is one. Paul and Philip, a beautiful lady's children, which teach me a lesson. Her mother, she was feeding his youngest brother named Kimani. And I left Annette sitting down by the stove. and I went to buy something for her. When I came back, I saw a line of men like that, taking turns. I said, what are they doing? I wonder what these men are looking at. Guess what they were looking at? They were looking at this young man's mother breastfeeding his brother, and that was strange. That was the most abnormal thing that you could ever see. You see where they got us? You see, brother, we need love. So because of these young brothers that we didn't help, we didn't leave anything for them. When they began to rap about the language they used, we were angry at them. But that was exactly what we were doing. Yeah. Now, these youngsters are not about philosophy and religion. No, they know better. They know that religion divides you. Because when I went to Africa, the people that live in the northern part of Nigeria, they call themselves Hausas. The Hausa is a Muslim. The Yoruba live in the west. They're both Nigerian. One is a Yoruba, and one is a Hausa. So we as Yorubas, we are supposed to kill